Zhaniya Aubakirova presents a series of discussions about the place of Kazakh culture in the global world. Meetings with prominent public figures, candid conversations, collisions of opinions, and discussions about the most important things.
Hello, dear viewers. Our guest today is Nurlan Kiyasov.
Nurlan Kiyasov.
Nurlan Kiyasov, our compatriot who works in education, the most difficult, often criticized, and important field. He is a person who has the courage and the need to work in education and training, who's ready to share new knowledge with everyone who needs it. And most importantly, he's engaged in the reform of higher-end school education in Russia and Kazakhstan. Every meeting with him makes me happy. Hello, Nurlan.
Good day.
You know, I really like the expression other things being equal, in the sense that a person can achieve success or otherwise. In the context of this expression, tell me how you, as an ordinary Kazakh man from Aktobe, managed to advance so well in Moscow. After all, we know that this is a city with an incomparably high level of competition. What, in your opinion, are your personal qualities that helped you achieve success in this very difficult area?
Yes, we all perfectly understand what kind of a city Moscow is and what it takes for national minorities to at least become a little equal with the locals.
You have to be 100 times better.
You always have to work a little harder and put in a little more effort. Although the question is, of course, not only in nationality. Even if we take into account only the local population, in Moscow succeeded only those who work hard, who do a lot and act fast. Because Moscow is a city of action. It does not tolerate tears and weakness. There's an incredibly high concentration of information, a very high-speed exchange of it among extremely talented people. When I arrived, I had to work very hard to prove myself. And yes, it was tough. I started to work in education quite by accident. When I was in high school, thoughts of being an educator or working in education field were the very last on my list.
So how did you end up in this field? What happened?
How did it happen? During my school years, I was an activist. I always dared to dream big. I was fond of international relations, and until my graduation year, I thought that I would be an expert in the field of international relations, because I liked traveling, and I was very seriously interested in politics and political science. Meanwhile, my father was familiar with the metallurgists of our city, and after a conversation with one of them, he learned in great detail about the scientific and raw material base that we have in our region. He learned that it has almost the entire periodic table, and this made such a great impression on him that he began to persuade me to become a metallurgist and enter the Moscow Institute of Steel and Alloys. Of course, I was shocked by his idea. It was the first time I heard about this profession. Additionally, it seemed to me that all metallurgists are representatives of the working class, whose entire destiny is to stand at a hot furnace and the like. But my father convinced me that the basis of our economy is industry, that we are very dependent on our resources, including the oil and gas sector. And even if I plan to be a statesman, I must understand how it all works. I thought a lot about it then. Well, there was one more argument. After all, it is engineering education that provides a very good foundation, lays down the principles of critical thinking. Humanitarian skills can be mastered at any time, whereas a strong engineering base, an understanding of complex physical and chemical processes, which is precisely what the profession of a metallurgist provides, is a wonderful foundation for any other specialty, even for a future politician or economist. And at that moment, it seemed to me that this would be the right way to go. Then, after graduating from university and working for a while as a metallurgist, I realized that the basis of the country's prosperity is still science, innovation, and scientific discoveries. I've already made the decision to move towards science and have chosen an incredibly difficult specialty. quantum physics, and nanotechnology. I studied it for 2 years.
Is it as MISIS?
No, at Cambridge University.
Oh, Cambridge.
Yes, I worked in the laboratories of Rutherford, where Kapitsa worked, and then I clearly saw my path to go to work in science. I started to work on all sorts of developments. I worked in the Skolkovo project in Moscow. This is Naukograd, at my university too. But the results were not what I expected them to be, because unfortunately the situation regarding science both in Russia and Kazakhstan, as the situation regarding the roads in these countries is not very good. And I realized that the basis of everything is, first of all, culture, pedagogy, including preschool education and early childhood development. These factors form the foundation of a person. That is why I ended up in education.
In education?
Yes.
Nurlan, you work in this area. I also have quite a lot of experience in education, both in higher education and in school. I understand that no matter how much we do, we still don't have enough time because it flies by so fast. In this regard, what are the challenges facing education today?
Recently, we studied the research results and found out that pedagogy really, no matter where it is in Russia or in Kazakhstan, faced the fact that children began to learn and consume content in a different way. We realized that there are 3 main points. The first point, they choose individual trajectories in education. The second point, the speed, everyone learns at their own pace. And the third one is the methods of content delivery. For example, children learn via different devices and platforms. Someone, for example, wants to study exclusively through a mobile phone. This is a real challenge. The habits of our children are changing significantly, and modern teachers need to take into account these so-called digital competencies. In my opinion, this is one of the most important challenges because research today says that the concentration time of a child has also decreased. Once it was 7 minutes, now it is already less than 5 minutes. The authority of the teacher is lost while on some level it is present in elementary school. The teacher still
have an authority.
Yes, among children. Then, after elementary school, this authority is lost. The child grows up, he enters teenage years, and here the most important task of the school begins, to keep the child's attention. Today, the teacher is struggling to win the child's attention over online streaming services, social networks, computer games. He needs to keep the child in such a constant state of growth and evolvement. At the moment, there are many research groups in the world that are developing completely new type of pedagogy, a digital pedagogy.
As I see it, everything now depends on the personality of the teacher, because if he lacks charisma, experience, or some kind of creative trait, then he has little chance of being heard and understood. To what extent is it possible to develop creative potential in a person, especially in adulthood?
Everything is possible. Of course, a lot depends on the teachers at school. The success of children at school depends on teachers almost at 90%. But at the same time, the influence of the school is less than the influence of the family. According to the latest research, school has a 30% impact on a success in person's life.
More.
While the family and the environment has an influence of about 70%.
And the environment has a stronger influence?
Yes, the external environment and the family.
Did it change with time?
Yes, the school has a 30% impact on a person. I'm stressing this fact because very often our parents are mistaken when they think that after bringing a child to school, they will have a full developed person at the end of his studies. They relieve themselves of full responsibility and forget that the foundation is formed in the family. The school simply develops or adds new directions. The foundation is parents. Teachers' resources are limited. He has 30 children for a 45-minute lesson. What he is doing in this 45 minutes, how he uses them, is a different question. But if we talk about school, then of course a teacher plays a key role there, unlike at the university. During the pandemic, we left teachers alone with this problem, with the tragedy that happens, so to speak. We did not create conditions, infrastructure, and there were not even specific guidelines on how to act in a situation like this. And teachers, as well as doctors, took up this challenge. And in no case should we blame them if something went wrong. We must create decent conditions for them. For example, there are studies that claim that the way that the principal interacts with the teacher, what kind of tone he uses, and what manner he speaks, is subsequently affects the way a teacher communicates with children.
In an authoritative way.
Yes, in an authoritative manner. It turns out that the director also communicates in most cases in a similar manner with teachers, and those, in turn, with children.
It's very important to preserve the self-esteem of teachers.
If we elaborate more in creativity topic, then I would say that neither the teacher nor the school have a monopoly in this regard, and cannot cover all areas of the child's interests. And therefore, it is very important for the teacher to create an environment where the child himself will find activities that fit his interests. And in this case, by the way, digital technologies play a key role. Many things that are not available in remote villages, cities, small towns are now on the internet and free of charge. It is very important to improve the digital competence of teachers in order for them to change their role, become a navigator, filter, or just an advisor who can give his recommendations, so that the child himself can find something to do with his interests. He can learn music, for example, or play chess, or develop engineering thinking, but outside of school, online.
The last time we spoke, you expressed such a wonderful idea that schools can collaborate. For example, creative schools with technical schools.
Exactly.
For example, IT specialists with artists. How can this be realized in reality?
Well,
And why?
I guess some people have a misperception that engineering, IT specialties, or more precisely, graduates of such specialties can become successful people and start high-tech companies, but in reality, they cannot. The key competencies for a leader, if you want to build a large company, a global company, or an initiative, they are a little bit different. Even now, judging by the projects in Almaty, I see that the ability to work in a team and communication skills are the most important things. Today, not a single company, not a single initiative, shall we say, will be able to operate successfully if it does everything on its own, or its leader are only thinking of themselves. Success is a result of teamwork, and if you develop only engineering thinking, then of course it is not bad, good. This is a great basis, but only if you want to make scientific discoveries. However, if you want for these scientific discoveries to be realized, become the basis for the company, make life easier for people, then in this case you need a different set of qualities. It includes creativity of thinking, ability to work in a team, empathy, and many other things that are developed in the first place by creative specialties. When you're working on a task and do not see the limit, for example, when you have a wide imagination, these traits are acquired exclusively with the help of music and drawing. This I noticed in the United States and Massachusetts. Olin College, one of the best engineering universities for undergraduate degrees in the state, following the agreement with the state's governor, decided to build an art and science college opposite to itself.
Колледжи в области art and science, искусства. У них единая образовательная среда.
They have a unified educational environment. Those young engineers, students who study IT or science, they have the right to attend classes and lectures of this college. They can study art, culture, develop soft skills, and this is counted for them as academic hours.
Развитие мягких навыков и, конечно, перезачитывать их как кредиты тоже в том числе.
Now I understand what it is. I had a similar experience. Once I took part in master classes. I was invited to one of the Ivy League universities, and there I taught piano. And the students played pretty well, but I thought that their level wasn't so high. It was on the level of average students at conservatories. But then it turned out that these were chemistry and biology students.
А выяснилось, что это, оказывается, у них программа майнер, а мейджор, они там химики, биологи.
Yes.
Back then, I thought that they do it because they are rich and can afford it. But it turns out that that was the way they were developing creative thinking. Well, this is incredible. I've known you for the past few years, 2 to 3 years to be exact, and I see how you're moving towards your goal, how you use the experience that you're gaining in Russia to develop education, reform higher education and school education, and not only of such a huge country as Russia, but of course Kazakhstan too. And the Kazakhstani public welcomes you and perceives you almost like a guru. And in this regard, my question is, what project are you currently working on in Almaty?
We have a large international conference, EdCrunch, in Russia on new educational technologies and specifically on the development of pedagogy at all levels of education, including early childhood, school, university, corporate training. And we decided this year to expand EdCrunch and take it abroad. Actually, now we are making an attempt to hold this international conference in Almaty this year.
It's only an attempt?
We are actively preparing. We invite major international speakers. Unfortunately, this epidemiological situation does not allow us to invite all of them in person, but I think it will still be quite interesting. For the first time, we will probably declare Almaty as a center of new educational technologies for the entire professional community of the world. At the invitation of the Akimat of the city of Almaty, we have now launched a large program for the development of personnel in Almaty educational institutions, called this program Almaty Schools, and launched quite serious retraining programs with leading international educational centers, school principals with their deputies. We call them management teams, teachers in all directions and subjects in all new pedagogical areas. We launched the digital Ustaz Almaty competition to popularize digital technologies in education. Every year, we will discover 30 teachers innovators to the city who will hold conferences. We are now developing all kinds of virtual simulators. We create digital content for Almaty. In general, Almaty, of course, is an amazing city, a center known throughout the CIS. They call it the City of Education. It should definitely be included, and probably is already included due to its potential, in one of the 3 educational centers of the CIS countries. There's a high concentration of leading universities, centers of extracurricular education, schools, private investments in education are growing, and I think conscious, motivated parents live in Almaty. We also saw that Almaty has the highest concentration of young teachers. It is at the level of 25%. The largest number of teachers with a high category, conscious parents who invest a lot of money in the development of their children. And I believe that the city has great potential, and I dream that every school will be able to create such a new, motivating educational environment for a child, for an Almaty resident. And we are working on it.
Well, at the end of our program, as a musician, I still can't help but ask, what kind of music do you prefer? Kazakh, world classics, Russian music? What is closer to your soul?
I realized that many of the habits of my childhood still have a strong influence on me as an adult. It's like my dad grew up on hits of the 70s and 80s and a little bit of the 90s. It passed on to me, and of course, out of old habit, I like all the hits of that time by famous bands, both foreign, Russian, and domestic. And when I am in Moscow, when I miss Oktober and my grandmother, of course, I listen to Kazakh songs. Especially on weekends, this helps me to plunge into the atmosphere of childhood and return home.
To connect with your homeland.
Шақыра алмайсың дауыста мұңайып кейде жүрсің бе жүрсің-ау маған бағышта Мен үшін жаным көбелек сағыныш болып себелек мұңайып кейде жүрсің бе хабарласпайды неге де
дорогой Нурлан,
Dear Nurlan, I wish you great success because education is the #1 priority in all countries. We need a conscious and literate young generation to pull us out of these difficult times so that we still have an idea and hope for a bright future. We are very proud of you. We wish you great success.
огромных вам успехов.
Thank you, Zhaniya. All the best.